Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. Our first segment of the day is regarding the White House Correspondents' Dinner and how Joe Biden told a joke that was in reality truth and just making a mockery of the White House press corps. Wait till we get into that. As always, support the show by hitting that like and subscribe button. Leave us a short, sweet comment down below. The question of the day is, do you think journalism has improved under Joe Biden or has just gotten worse? Look forward to reading your responses below. So the White House Correspondents Association held its annual dinner Saturday night, and it's an event that is meant to celebrate the First Amendment and basically gather money or raise money for journalism scholarships. Well, unfortunately for the press corps, its members didn't realize President Joe Biden was laughing at the media, not with it, throughout the evening. He made a joke here, and for those that are listening, at the beginning of the show, I put it in air quotes because it's not really a joke in so much as he's making a mockery of reporters and not answering their question. Let's go ahead and roll it.
In a lot of ways, this dinner sums up my first 2 years in office. I'll talk for 10 minutes, take 0 questions, and cheerfully walk away.
So, in every joke, there is truth. But in this joke, it was just 100% truth, and he's making a mockery of them. So the president, through these dinners, will make jokes. But this president typically will make a number of kind of wisecracks that's meant for good fun, if you know Joe Biden. But the one joke that he just made, that you just heard, is a clear mockery of the reporters who cover the president. And I know some of them. I talk with some of them behind the scenes, and they don't think it's funny. So how did the 2,600 or so in attendance react to all this? Well, as you saw, they all chuckled and clapped and cheered along at the joke. And you don't have to take my word for it. If you listen to senior CNN commentator and former Bush staffer Scott Jennings explains to his colleagues why they should be embarrassed. And we have a clip of that here for you. As always, folks, some of the things take a little while to get up and running here, but nonetheless, we still have it for you. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Biden, the line that will stick with me is, in a lot of ways, this dinner sums up my first 2 years in office. I'll talk for 10 minutes, take 0 questions, and cheerfully walk away. I'm just going to, for the journalist in the room, he wasn't laughing with you. He was laughing at you. I mean, the reality is, I think he's mocking the press. The guy does not take questions, and he's up there joking about it. And they're clapping and they're laughing about it. And I don't know. I think he owes, I'm pro reporter. And I think the President of the United States ought to have to talk to these reporters and not mock them.
He's not wrong there. And you know, I laugh at everything. I know this show, you don't necessarily get to see the full personality of me. You see more of a side of the political side where I'm frustrated with the Democrats, I'm frustrated with the progressive left, I'm frustrated with our politicians. So it's more of a serious aspect of my personality. But in real life, I laugh at everything, and it's definitely got me in trouble. I do think it's funny, don't get me wrong, but at the same side of it, if you're a reporter that spends every day going into the White House briefing room and not getting answers from Jen Psaki previously, and then Karine Jean-Pierre, you're definitely not getting any of your questions in or answered. I mean, look at Simon, who hasn't got a question in for almost a year, I want to say at this point. You have Fox News reporter Peter Doocy and Jackie Heinrich going weeks sometimes without a question. And same with our boy Phil Wegman of Real Clear Politics having the same thing. And they'll ask questions and not even get any response. And by the way, she's going to tell us that the president takes reporters' questions. And the only way that he really takes their questions is, one, it's shouted, or two, you have to give them a preemptive question. And then when you give it to them preemptive, the White House is going to say, well, we don't do preemptive questions. Even though a Los Angeles Times reporter that we just covered last week gave him a question ahead of time, they printed out with her face and who she's with in terms of an outlet. Again, that was the Los Angeles Times. And then the next day, when Jackie Heinrich of Fox News asks Karine Jean-Pierre, hey, why does basically the president need a cheat sheet? And how did he get that cheat sheet? She dodges the question and say, this is something they don't do. They don't take pre-vetted questions. You can't make that statement, by the way, when literally there is footage and pictures of him having a predetermined question from a reporter at a press briefing or a press conference with the president of South Korea. You can't say that that's not what you do when in fact you do it, because we just saw it being done. And we've seen it done many of times. So indeed, think of all the alleged scandals that the White House press pool either ignores or covers late in the game. You have the Hunter Biden laptop, you have Russiagate, the real status of the war in Ukraine, Biden's classified documents, which we were lied to. I think we counted almost 5 times in succession by the White House. And what I mean by that, if you recall, we find out that Joe Biden has these classified documents, and Karine Jean-Pierre the day before didn't disclose any of it. So it was ousted by an outlet. And then everybody comes in the White House press briefing room and says, hey, what's going on with these documents? And she doesn't take any questions about it or answer. She doesn't give any answers either. And they go, okay, well, hey, is there any other classified documents we should know about? She basically either doesn't answer it or says no, even though at that present time, she knew that there was already a second set of classified documents that have been found, meaning she knew it and didn't disclose to it, even though the White House is going to say they're the most transparent presidency that's ever existed. So then the next day comes around, and lo and behold, a second set of classified documents comes around. So they all enter the White House press briefing room once again, and you have CNN, Matt Whittingley or whatever his name is. I always screw his last name up, but if CNN goes, hey, what's going on? Why'd you tell us that you didn't know anything about a second set of classified documents? It turns out there is a second set of classified documents. She gives a cockamamie response. As she's giving the cockamamie response, she knows there is a third set of classified documents. So while she's saying she's been being transparent about the first set, she says in real time that she's being transparent about the second set, even though she wasn't. She's already knowing about a third set of classified documents and doesn't disclose it to anybody. So they come back the next day and they're like, what the hell? Why didn't you tell us about this stuff? And it goes on. And we've heard rumors and didn't get much news that there was actually a fifth set of classified documents many weeks ago. But they're going to be quick to, jump on Trump and his classified documents and all that such. It's such a debacle that's going on with this White House. The Biden family, another thing that's going on, making money off the family name and the political access they have. They somehow got $3 million from China. Nobody wants to cover that. The weaponization of the Justice Department, and many, many more. There's so many things going on of which they can't even get a question in to Joe Biden because, like you heard in the joke, he just runs away. That's all he does. You shout questions, he doesn't answer, and you run away. Although Karine Jean-Pierre, the Democrats, are all going to say that he takes questions all the time. It's insane. They're running the presidency in the same way they ran the campaign. We're going to chauffeur him out for some photos. He's not going to take any questions, and then we'll throw him back in the basement for a bit because he's not all up here. We all know what's going on. And by the way, watching the White House Correspondents Dinner, there was barely a mention of any of it on Saturday night in terms of what I just mentioned. Any of it, except for the MC, the comedian and everything, who actually made fun of the lapdog media for its double standard over President Donald Trump's handling classified documents. That part was there, and it was actually kind of funny, him mentioning it, because everybody knows they really dropped the ball in terms of the double standard of what they're doing here, of covering Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago raid and really taking hold of that, but not really covering Joe Biden's 5-time classified document leakage and just sitting around his Corvette and everything. Well, here's the joke.
I don't know about y'all, but for me, the easiest scandal to follow was the Trump document scandal. That was the one that was easy to follow. It was simple. It's some stuff that's supposed to be in the White House that ain't. And the media, y'all did y'all's job. Y'all jumped on that story. As soon as the Trump document story broke, everybody was down at Mar-a-Lago. We're reporting live from the documents, and we're gonna find them. And then we found out Joe Biden had documents too, and it was like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Everybody got documents. Everybody got documents. Mike Pence had some documents. Who care about it? Ooh, look, a Chinese spy balloon. Would you look at that? Ooh. Well done, media.
Again, it's a lot of this, either jokes, but a joke is supposed to be part truth and kind of, part make-believe. These are just, they're all facts. And that's why we've done conversations or have had conversations. We've done shorts here on YouTube saying, when is satire no longer satire anymore, just because it's just truth now. Of you have this classified document scandal with Donald Trump, everybody's making a whole hubbub about it. And then you have Joe Biden, what we know of 4 times, possibly 5 times, having classified documents for decades laying around, by the way. Hell, when we went to Ireland, literally documents were falling on the street and people were picking them up. That sounds like an actual joke that you would make, but that happened too. So they're not going to cover it in the same way. We all know this is going on. It's happening. There are reporters that I do trust in that room 100%. A lot of them, I would say about half of them, do a fabulous job of trying to get their questions in, but they're fighting this White House, and they should be making more of a big deal over it, especially when the president mocks you. You got to be pissed, and you got to come in this coming week here and really laying down the law as a group together and going, this is BS. We don't like it. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Are you for the White House Correspondents' Dinner, or do you think it's just grandstanding, an opportunity for people to spend money and just kind of, have a little bit of foo-foo time, very similar to the Oscars or SAG Awards, where it's just a bunch of diversity quotas that they got to check off? Let me know what you think about, again, the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Would love to hear from you. Moving into our next story of the day, we have DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas refusing to take accountability for the unprecedented migration crisis and actually shifts the blame. And who's he blaming? Congress, which is so typical of the Biden administration. And we do have a clip here to play for you in one moment of the former acting ICE director just ripping him a new one. But it's typical of the Biden administration to do this. And you've actually seen it not just from DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas shifting the blame to Congress, but Karine Jean-Pierre as well, because who's in control of Congress right now? Well, it's the Republicans. So it's always Republicans' fault. And if it's not Republicans' fault, it's somebody else's fault. We've seen this from Karine Jean-Pierre to Joe Biden to Kamala Harris in terms of blaming the economy on Putin. So early on, gas prices increased. You had record inflation, 40-year high inflation, and they were blaming it on the Putin price hike, even though prices were increasing before Putin ever invaded Ukraine. And also you had record inflation. That was everybody else's fault, even though Joe Biden passed out stimulus checks like they were hotcakes, causing, again, 40-year inflation. So it's always everybody else's fault. But here you have a fabulous clip of Fox News, and we're watching in its entirety, of former acting ICE director just ripping the guy a new one and listening to these weekly stats. These are updated stats. And what he's about to read here is just from 1 week, you guys. I hope you're sitting down for this because these sound like monthly numbers. And these would have probably been like 6-month period under the Trump administration. These are happening in a week. Just check this out.
Aisha, for more on the crisis at the border, Tom Homan joins us now. He's a former acting ICE director and a Fox News contributor. Tom, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Let's take a look at a week at the border, courtesy of Border Patrol. 6 agents assaulted, 41,045 apprehensions, 11,882 approximate gotaways, 51,894 in cash seized, 917 pounds of cocaine, 528 pounds of marijuana, 33 pounds of deadly fentanyl, 3 pounds of meth, 8 pounds of heroin, 14 firearms, 9 sex offenders, 3 murderers. How do you assess those numbers for a week at the border?
Well, look, the men and women of the Border Patrol, first of all, the American patriots. I started my career as a Border Patrol agent. They're doing a great job, but they're overwhelmed. So those numbers you just said, very impressive, but they'll tell you they're catching maybe 10% of the drugs coming across. And why is that? Because this crisis is so big. 70 to 80% of agents are no longer on the line. They're in facilities processing families, changing diapers, making baby formula, making hospital runs. So when you take 70 to 80% of agents off the line, that's when the cartels move the drugs. That's when they traffic the women and children. That's when the known suspected terrorists come across. They're doing a great job. They're patriots, but they're overwhelmed.
Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas was on Capitol Hill this week. Let's play it.
You disagree with the head Border Patrol agent when he said that our border is not secure?
Congressman, I have testified to that issue.
So you do disagree with him? You disagree with your chief of Border Patrol?
I respectfully do in that regard,
You
Congressman.
do?
Wow.
What do you make of that?
He needs to be impeached. The man has no integrity. He lies under oath in front of Congress, and the American people should be outraged. He's a cabinet official who constantly lies under oath, which is a felony. He can't possibly say the border is secure. You know, we're at 1.7 million gotaways since he's been secretary. That's 1,700,000 aliens have crossed this border. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they came from. We don't know where they are now. But considering they've arrested, people from 171 different countries, and some of those countries are sponsors of terrorism, you can only assume that a lot of those gotaways are known suspected terrorists. They're carrying fentanyl. They're predators. They're criminals. There's a reason why they didn't turn themselves into Border Patrol to get processed, released, flown to a city of their choice at taxpayer expense. They wanted to get away because they didn't want to get vetted. They got an issue, and this is a huge, I've said it before and I'll keep saying it, this is the biggest national security failure this country has seen since 9/11.
What do you make of New York City Mayor Eric Adams coming to Washington?
We'll come back to this in just one moment, I promise. It's just amazing that Democrats get away with this type of stuff to lie to Congress blatantly. We all know the border's not secure. We all know what's going on. We all see what's happening. It's not even remotely secure. You can't have that many gotaways coming through and then pretending as if the border's secure. 1.7 million gotaways, and those are just the known gotaways, meaning it's probably even double that. And you also have 5 million people pouring across the border as well. So this is insane. I mean, just imagine how many terrorists are here. You saw a weekly number of just the murderers, the sex traffickers, the drugs that are pouring through. That was just in 1 week, 41,000 apprehensions in 1 week. And you're going to have the balls to say that the border's secure and we're supposed to go along with this? It just shows you the failure of the Biden administration. The guy has the balls to run again. And by the way, speaking of balls, the Democrats have the balls to sit there and actually vote for the guy again, watching this all happen. At the same time, those same people that are voting for that knucklehead were complaining that the Trump administration was ripping child to the arms of their family. Even Joe Biden was doing the same thing. They don't even have enough space at the border. Remember, that was a whole fiasco? And you had AOC going down there, they're drinking out of toilet water when they weren't. She was like making up photographs of her going to empty parking lots with a chain link fence. There was like nothing on the other side of the chain link fence. So this is what Democrats do. They don't care about these issues. They don't care about these children. If they did, the Biden administration would fix it. If they did, then you had Congress would have wanted to fix it under the Biden administration in terms of the first year and a half that he was in office. They had all three branches of government and didn't do anything. They did absolutely nothing. They don't care, you guys. They don't care. They pretend like they care.
What do you make of New York City Mayor Eric Adams coming to Washington and being critical of the Biden administration's handling of the border crisis?
I'm critical of him. You look at those mayors, Mayor of New York, Mayor of Chicago, Mayor of Los Angeles, they're all complaining about this migrant crisis. They could fix it themselves if they wanted to. Every one of those mayors oversee a sanctuary city. The illegal aliens are going to their cities anyways. They can go to New York, they can get a job, they can get a driver's license. New York will give them money to help fight their immigration case. Who the hell wouldn't want to go to New York for your illegal alien? So, shame on them. They're sanctuary cities. They ought to be working with ICE. Because right now in those sanctuary cities, if you're in the country illegally and you commit a crime, a serious crime, and let's say you go to Rikers Island, ICE isn't even allowed to go to Rikers Island to talk to that person and deport him.
So we're looking at the end of Title 42. It sounds like the administration's determined to rip the Band-Aid off in early May. What's the impact on the border?
Listen to this one.
I worry about the men and women of the Border Patrol, the 20,000 men wearing that uniform. They're already overwhelmed. They got over 17 suicides last year. I'm not saying this border crisis caused that, but whatever internal struggles they were having, this historic crisis certainly didn't help. You're going to see more children die. You're going to see more drugs come across. You're going to see more women and children trafficked. You're going to see a hell lot more gotaways. Because when that surge comes in Title 42, that 70, 80% off the line is now going to be 90%. In some sectors, it'll be 100%. There are several instances this past year where there was no Border Patrol agents in the entire sector. Hundreds of miles of border unprotected. That's going to get worse.
This city's famous for blue ribbon panels to look at big problems. If they did a blue ribbon panel, put you, Chad Wolf, and some Democratic administration officials, former officials on there, what would you tell them about fixing this problem as soon as possible?
Re-implement the Trump policies that we put in place that worked. They were effective. The data shows it. 45-year low illegal immigration down 83%. It saved a lot of lives. They could secure this border in 90 days if they re-implement the policies that proven effective.
There you go, folks. I mean, you heard it from the horse's mouth, the guy that's done the job, and you have the Biden administration doesn't want to do the damn job. They want to sit there and exacerbate the problem, make it worse. And again, this is our theory here in the Bald Brad Show, where we believe, some of us, especially myself, that the whole end goal here is to get as many illegal aliens across through the border as possible, so that when the next administration comes in, that's a Republican administration, builds that border wall, they've already cushioned the pad enough to where it's not economically feasible to deport 22 to 25 million people back to their home country. And so Republicans are going to engage in an amnesty conversation for all 22 to 25 million people. And so when that gets processed and put through, as you would expect it to, because the border would hopefully be secure at that point, you stop the bleeding and the inflow happening, 75 to 80% of that group is going to be voting Democrat. So now you just swung the election in favor of the Democrats for like the next century because those people want handouts and they're relying on the government for those handouts. I'm not saying Republicans don't, because if you even look at the data, Republicans tend to swing in the opposite direction in terms of having more government funding going to them, but that's for a whole nother video. But you understand what I'm saying here. This is the end goal. This is the end product of what the Democrats want. I'm curious on what you think about all this. Do you think DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas should be impeached? Do you think he should be removed? Hell, I know what you guys think about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, but do you think DHS Secretary should be let go? So now we're at the Joe Biden should be impeached. Kamala Harris should be let go as well. Karine Jean-Pierre should have been let go a long time ago. And now we have DHS Secretary. I mean, the list just keeps accumulating here. Folks, please leave us a comment down below. It does support the channel. Head over to our description section down below in this video. Grab yourself a copy of our book, Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. You just watched a video partially happening in real time here in terms of how the Democrats want to do it. Well, this book is not just about Democrats, but more specifically the progressive left on how they want to destroy this country from the inside out. It is a phenomenal book, folks. We're in Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble. Pick yourself up a copy. You are supporting an American patriot. Pick it up for a friend or family member as a birthday gift. Folks, with that being said, I'll see you tomorrow here on The Paul Brad Show.